Hey y'all, welcome back. I am excited for you guys this week. I'm going to be talking with Michelle. We're super aligned in a lot of our thinking, and I'm always looking to share different people's philosophies and how they help other people because for you guys who are listening, we can take away so much, but some things resonate with other people in different ways. So I know that this conversation is going to leave you with a lot of 1% shifts for the week that you can try on after you hear this conversation. Drop in the DMs what you're going to try because I think it's important that we stay in community with each other and cheer each other on. So, welcome, Michelle. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm so glad to be here, Robin. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, like we were just mentioning before, I am a big proponent of hearing people's stories because I feel like we all have a story. Everybody's story matters. So, how did you end up in this space? Did you grow up knowing this is what you wanted to do, or do you have a journey that kind of got you here?
Oh, I love telling my story, so thank you. And it is a journey. So I would say the first part of my journey is I always cared about health. It was something that I was passionate about, but I did not study it. I was an English and philosophy major, totally different tracks, but it was just something I cared about. And then unfortunately, my mom passed away when I was quite young. I was 21. She was 48. She died of metastasized breast cancer. And I really think I made this decision at 21 of like how to be empowered in my health and well-being and not choose fear, right? Because I was like all I can do is my best and be mindful of my health and well-being, but I didn't want to like worry the rest of my life, right? And so I think that had a big impact, but kind of rolled along with the English major. I was a high school English teacher for 12 years, totally a different path. And as many in our field, where either we get sick or someone we love gets sick, I got sick. And I didn't get diagnosed with anything. I literally know the day I got sick, Robin. Like I remember it was a beautiful day. I was actually celebrating or trying to honor. It was the anniversary of my mom's passing. I'm sure that was not a coincidence. And I was trying to do something really fun to like be like embrace life. I was in my mid to late 30s. We went for a bike ride in the Napa wine fields. It was this gorgeous day. And I came home from that day and suddenly felt really sick. I had like a cough, and then I was like, oh no, here it is. I used to get sick all the time, right? So I was like, oh, I caught a bug. Well, I got sick and I didn't get better. And my cough got worse. And I'm going to the doctor and they're saying you're fine. And I'm like, no, I'm not fine, and I couldn't walk up the stairs. I had laryngitis. I had chronic sinus infections. I would get better for a minute and then I get sick again. And this was going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, months and months and months. And before that, I would, exercising daily, pretty healthy person. So this was like a huge dramatic shift. And I just kept not getting better. And I'm seeing all these specialists and they're like, we don't know what's wrong. You're fine, right? You're fine. And I'm like, I am not fine. So I ended up seeing a naturopathic doctor. I'm still in contact with her today. This was 14, 15 years ago. And, as it is in holistic health, I wanted the diagnosis. I wanted, like, this is what's wrong with you. And it wasn't one thing, right? Basically, my digestive system was shot, my immune system was shot, my whole system was shot. And I had to just rebuild and repair really slowly. There's definitely a few things I found out. I had a dairy sensitivity, so I had to take that out, which was crushing because I loved cheese. I still love cheese. But slowly but surely, I got better, right? Got stronger. And probably similar to a lot of people you worked with, I did need to heal and repair my digestive system, but I had no quote unquote digestive issues. It was all manifesting as upper respiratory issues. That's how it was showing up for me. So through that process, slowly got stronger and stronger, healthier and healthier. I lost 20 pounds without trying. It was just like all that inflammation kind of went off my body. And I can tell you, Robin, that what ended up being my last first day of school as a teacher, I didn't know at the time, but it was the summer after. So I got sick in October. I was sick from October basically through April, May of that school year, long time. started to feel better over the summer, and then went back to school that first day. And all I was talking about was food and nutrition and health. I wasn't talking about setting up my classroom or whatever else. And this is my favorite part of the story. I came home from work that day, checked my email, and this is back in the day where Gmail would put little ads at the top, and it
Mhm.
said, "Do you want to transform people's lives through holistic nutrition?" And I saw it and I was like, I do. I do want to transform people's lives through holistic nutrition. I normally never click on those ads. I clicked on that ad. It was like Alice in Wonderland. This whole world of holistic nutrition opened up for me. My husband was cooking dinner that night. By the time we sat down to dinner, I was like, I know what I want to do for my new career. I'm going back to school. Like, I'm going to start researching programs. And I was off and running. So it really was, I give the metaphor of like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Like in that illness, I actually came out stronger and better and like truly better than I was before. My asthma went away. I'd had asthma since I was a teenager. I took an inhaler every single day of my life from age 13 to 37. And in healing and repairing my body, that took time and effort and patience and frustration and tears and sadness. But that October, so almost a year later, I went into my first exercise class and I thought, you know what? I'm going to bring my inhaler, but I'm not going to take it ahead of time. And I didn't need it. It was the first time ever. And now I'm like, where's my inhaler? What asthma? So yeah, so that led me into this career, and I went back and got my master's degree in health and nutrition education, finished teaching that school year, and then opened up my practice. So, and here I am 12, almost 13 years later. So it was, when we talk about the hero's journey and the dark night of the soul, like there was a day in February when I was sick or a weekend in February that I'll never forget because my husband went out of town to visit his family. I wasn't well enough to go. I was like, I can't get on an airplane. I can't go visit your family. Like, I'm just not, I need to recover. I live in Northern California. It happened to be a very rainy, cold weekend, and it was a holiday weekend. And I literally didn't leave the house and I didn't see another human for like 3 or 4 days. And I was like, and I'm a people person, like I need to be around people. And I was like, this is not okay. Like this is not how I'm meant to live. So, when my clients go through their dark night of the soul, like they got to do it on their own, but I'm like, I get it. And I know this and I've been here and like, I'm here to guide you as best as I can. So
It's so interesting. I mean, you've said a lot of little things I want to touch on. The first thing was fear.
yeah,
And what people don't recognize is when you position yourself living that way, right, with that fear mindset, that causes sickness, right? It
right,
causes a decomposition of your body because your your body's just in fight or flight all the time, and so you're just worried, right?
right.
So, I understand why people get that way because, of course, when you see something happen to a parent, when you see something happen to a loved one, a friend, whoever,
Right.
you could that be me, right?
Sure.
And it's like, so I want to encourage people, first of all, if you feel fear currently, that you know that it can be addressed. It can be addressed with lifestyle changes of learning how to breathe, the small techniques, the small habits that don't take very long, but really like helping yourself and helping your nervous system to come down. And
Yep.
when you can reset and reframe, this happened to her, yes, or to him or to whoever, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen to me because I have different tools that I'm going to learn, or if you have them,
Exactly.
use them, right? And so it's just a lot of that is mindset shift. Uh,
100%.
but I do
Yeah.
think a lot of people live in that fear,
Hmm.
especially when a loved one close to them has had something happen to them, but
Yeah.
nobody talks about it.
Right.
When something happens, even if you go to counseling, like grief counseling, they're not really talking about your feelings of feeling scared and worried, right? They're just talking
Yeah.
about like the grief part. So that
Yeah.
was something I totally wanted to touch on because I think it's not something that's talked about enough.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
glad.
I'm glad I had that wisdom at 21, and it definitely was a choice, right?
Mhm.
Like, how do I want to live my life? And then just like all mindset practice, and I know we'll probably get into this more, it's like there's the choice in that decision, and then there's like the daily practice of the mindset, right?
Totally. Yep.
And then now, like that's just how I choose to live, right? So
Right.
the reframes become faster and faster and easier because that that neural circuitry, that neural pathway is set up to be like optimal health and wellness. Do your best that you can do, and and then release and let go, right? Because
Right.
that's
Yep.
that's
And that is the release and let go for me and for most people. That is a daily practice. That is a daily
absolutely.
reminder, but it's catching yourself in the loop to be
Yep.
able to say, oh, here I am. Now I need to like redo that because
Yep.
I'm going to change the neural pathways. I'm not going to keep doing the same thing.
Right.
Um, what's interesting about your story is you had that happen when you were 21, but you didn't get sick for many, many years.
Yep.
So all that stuff, when we talk about, and I know people think it's woo woo, but it's really not. The stuff stays stored, right?
Hmm.
The body keeps the score. It
Yep.
keeps stuff hidden because it's how we protect ourselves and how we continue on with life, right? But eventually our machine, which is our body, can only hack so much and then it will start breaking down. So,
Absolutely.
all of your little things just kind of built up, it seems, and then you
Yep.
finally had the breakdown.
Yep. And
With a
I
very
will
long
add
break.
the other piece to it was, there had been some years of, I mean, teaching is very stressful.
Yeah.
Like I loved it, but it was extremely stressful. And the schedule was killing me. And so what I
Mhm.
didn't mention in my story is a few years beforehand, I was like, okay, I refuse to be a burnt out teacher. I need to exit, but like what else would I possibly do? So this was like 2 years before I got sick, right? So it's interesting, like when you look back, I'm like, I was heading towards burnout, like probably burnt out, but heading towards burnt out. Was trying to do the things that I could. I started going part-time and doing all these things, but it's like, you start to see it and you're like, aha, yeah, there we go.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing I loved that you said that I think also is not talked about enough, especially in the holistic lens, is healing takes time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a statement that I have, if you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, you didn't just wake up sick, right? Or
Right.
just not feeling your best or optimal. It
Right.
took you all those years to create all of those habits and all of those things that have now kind of spun into the way that you feel. And so
Yep.
to expect that in 30 days, you're going to be, like you were at 20 with it
Right.
just is impossible. So
Yep.
I think setting people up for realistic expectations
Yep.
is sometimes not what happens, especially in the Western mindset, because it's like, well, just come in and get the pill and you'll feel better. And
Right.
so even if you need that pill, right? Because I'm not completely against medication for
Mhm.
things that are absolutely 100% necessary. But even if you get that to help you, come down a little bit or get a little relief, if you're not being told that all this other stuff has to really be revamped and transformed, you're never going to still be the healthiest version, right? Because
Right.
so I think, I'll be happy and hopefully this will happen in my lifetime, but where all of this can kind of come together
Right.
because our bodies aren't like siloed parts. So that's why
Yeah.
the holistic of somebody, yes, of course, maybe your stomach didn't hurt and it came out in this way, but your gut was screaming and
Exactly.
that's how it manifested, right? So things manifest in different parts of your body, even though most things start in your gut, to be
Yeah,
honest, right? In your gut.
absolutely.
So
And what honestly, Robin, before I went through this whole journey, the first time I heard that, I was like, oh, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Like
that's
I
right.
remember learning that, hearing that, and like literally being super dismissive of it. And again, because I had quote unquote no digestive issues, right? Like I
Right.
had an iron stomach, which it's not anymore, but right, like it was so easy to dismiss. But again, when I look back, I'm like, gaining 20 pounds that like for no reason, or always being sick, but I could like dismiss it as like, oh, I'm a teacher, I'm around
Right. Around
students, I'm
germs
I'm
and
around germs, but like I don't get sick anymore. I mean, I get sick like a normal person. I get sick every now and then, but like I spent years sick all the time thinking that was quote unquote normal, right? And so I think that's the other part of it. It's like And I know you know this, and we've all been through this. It's like those symptoms first whisper,
Mhm.
and then they start to say it louder, and then they get louder. And then there's the 2x4 across the forehead. And I had the 2x4, right? That in
Most people
hindsight,
get the 2x4 in
most
some
people,
way. A
totally.
friend of mine and I, we have this saying, in this midlife, you can come willingly, like you can start to wake up and recognize that the the routine and the habits and the things maybe that worked in your 20s and 30s are just no longer going to be working for you. It's just
Yep.
fact, right?
Yep.
So you can come willingly or you can get drugged by your hair because one way or another you're coming for the ride. So
Correct.
when you were going through your journey, as before quote unquote midlife
Hmm.
age for you,
Hmm.
what do as you said, it was a long, hard process.
Hmm.
What was, if you can remember, like one of the first things that maybe the holistic doctor you were seeing suggested to you that you saw a shift and you were like, okay, like I can now see even if it's just that small little glimpse, what do you think that might have been?
Yeah, I definitely think it was a combination of things. I had already been starting, I was kind of like that typical healthy eater where I thought I was eating pretty healthy, but then when I was like maybe I look at this a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
And so then I started doing even more anti-inflammatory eating and just really trying to be more mindful of my nutrition. And that was even before I saw the naturopathic doctor. So that I was already on that path just to kind of clear out a lot of that inflammatory foods. I will also say that was a big challenge, and it's something I'm really good at helping my clients with because I was so sick and I was so scared again. Like there's that fear word, right? And overwhelmed, which I know
Hmm.
you and I talk about the overwhelm a lot. And like many of our clients, I was trying to do the best in terms of my like nutrition and supplements and all the kind of things. And with the nutrition piece, I remember I would go on to Google and be like anti-inflammatory or what should I avoid? And everything I looked up, I could find a source that said you should eat more of this, and then I'd see another source that said you should stop eating this, right? And just feeling so lost and confused. And so I think that's one of the things that I really like to help and support my clients with is like, and I know you talk about the biochemical individuality all along. It's like I had to figure out like what was right for my body
Exactly.
to be in that healing state. And for me at that time, the big one that really didn't want to take out and really didn't want to acknowledge was like the dairy sensitivity, right? And that was a huge deal breaker for me in terms of my health and well-being, especially because for me it shows up respiratory, and that was where most of my symptoms were showing up. And then I would say the other thing, in hindsight, was starting to do the gut healing protocol. I was using supplements and other practices. I'd already been getting acupuncture. I was already, doing that. And the other one that nobody wants to ever do or hear is I really had to rest. And thank you. I actually, I mean, I didn't have the ability to rest in the way that like a full rest probably would have been the best way, but I didn't have kids. I was working part-time. So basically that period of healing, I would sort of work and then crash and then work and then crash. But I did have some spaciousness to actually be resting. But that's when I
I think,
started going,
with you saying that,
yeah,
that's one of the things I absolutely love when clients say, like, I don't have time to rest.
right,
And so, and I understand why people feel that way because
right.
of the society we live in. It is just very rushed and very chaotic, and we have to be on all the time. But I love having people and clients analyze their schedule, right?
Yeah,
Analyze what their day looks like, how it
yeah,
unfolds most days, and then where can we give up something small to add in something huge, right?
100%.
And even if the rest is 10 minutes, and people also get confused, like movement, right? That's moving your
Mm-hmm.
body, but
Mm-hmm.
movement can also mean rest
Yeah.
because you can meditate while you're resting. You
Yep.
can listen to binaural beats. You
Yep.
can do stuff that activates things in your body. You're not running or you're not exercising per se.
Right.
You can
Right.
go into the sauna. You can go on the PMF mat. Like there's
Yeah.
things you can do
Yeah.
that helps your body to rest.
Yeah. That
If you're
restorative.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I try to help people to understand like resting doesn't mean you're lazy. Like
Yeah,
resting
of course.
or fueling yourself in a different way.
Yeah. And
Um,
I had no option. I will also say um, that, I wasn't a late person anyway, given like a teacher schedule, we had to
right.
wake up pretty early.
Have to be. That's right.
But I definitely embrace going to bed as early as possible, and that has stuck. You know what I mean?
Well, sleep is, and I know, I'm sure this is one of your pillars as well,
Yeah.
but sleep is a pillar of health and
Yep,
wellness. There
absolutely.
is no way, and maybe in your 20s, you think you're doing fine by staying up till 3 and then going to class at 8 and or whatever, 8, and yes, when you have little tiny babies, you do sacrifice your sleep, right?
Sure.
But you've got to make sure that you know that as soon as that period's over, you've got to rebuild those habits because if you're not sleeping properly, there's no way your body can heal because you're not resting and actually going through those processes that
Yep.
it needs to go through in order
Yep.
to heal.
Yeah, and I would say with the rest piece too, and this is obviously like when I was in like deep in the healing process, this isn't, all the time, but to your point, like it really, I think anybody who's been through a health challenge, you really start to look at like what is a priority, like what is most important and what. So I think I also got better at saying no. I had to say no, and that was hard sometimes, but there are other things that really just had to be a no. And one of my favorite phrases, and I used to actually teach this to my students, but is releasing the old perfectionism
mm,
because I have a little inner perfectionist in me. But one of my favorite sayings is good enough is best, right? Not good enough is good enough, but the best thing I can do is whatever's good enough. And that I really had to embrace during that period too. Like whatever it was like all I can do is what I can do, right? It's that kind of like radical acceptance of like where my body was at. And I will say now at this stage, even though overall I'm healthy and strong and feel great. We'll get to this later, but like the perimenopause transition to your point, right? Like every single day I have to check in with myself of like, what do I have capacity for today? Where am I at today? Right? Like every day
I
is,
love it.
is a
And I
new
do think
day.
I definitely want to dive into this because until you are in perimenopause or postmenopause, and I am post, and I think it's a different beast than peri.
Mhm.
But if you're in peri and you're not honoring the things when you get to post, you're going to hit a wall, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think in this midlife age, we really have to begin, which is very foreign for most women,
Yeah.
is to honor what our body is asking for. But it is
Mm.
to do that, you have to question
Right.
how important is this on a scale of 1 to 10, where does this particular event or thing fall?
Yeah.
And is it something that I want to invest time in, or is it really something that I'm going to say yes to, but I really don't want to? And
Right.
it is, I think a lot of women have not said no a lot. And so
Yeah.
it's a foreign thing, and it's something that we work on in this midlife chapter. Um,
Absolutely.
and that in itself can elevate, your wellness because
Yep.
you're then again, you're pouring into yourself in a different way, which creates less stress, less
Right.
tension, but you do have
Right.
to question, is this serving me anymore? Is it serving me right now? What are my
Right.
goals? How do I want to feel and where do I want to be?
Yep.
Just, I tell people a lot of times, I mean, it's so much self-talk in this
Yeah.
phase of life. And maybe because when you have kids and you're busy and you're working and you're doing all these things, you just don't have the capacity to add in all those questions because you have so many other balls in the air kind of a thing. But
Mhm.
I feel like at this stage, if you do have kids, they're probably a little bit older. If you
Mhm.
don't have kids and you're working, you're shifting kind of into more of a like phasing out type of
Mhm. Mhm.
mentality. So
Mhm.
I think that again, just questioning what it
Yeah.
is and
Yeah.
how does it fit into your plan of healing and health and wellness and thriving in this next chapter of life.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the questions I like to check in with myself is this in alignment with where I am today? Right. And there's no right or wrong. There's no like good or bad. It's just like, yeah, that this feels in alignment today, or this doesn't feel
And
in
in 2 weeks,
alignment.
though, it could,
Exactly.
because especially in this transition, your hormones are like up and down, up and down. But I always relate it back to, and I have 22 and 19-year-old, and what I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to really help them, which I never knew, is eating for your cycle, being eating
Totally.
for your cycle, like,
Yes.
living in your cycle. Like I was never taught that. And
Nope.
when I'm now that I've learned it, right, I'm trying to help them instill it, because this week you might have the capacity to
Yeah.
go out and do the social things, right? Next
Exactly.
week you're in a different phase of your cycle, basically. So you
Yep.
might have a ton of energy. So that's
Yep.
when you crank stuff out. But then
Yep.
when you're not feeling it, you've got to honor that and
Ah,
rest.
yep.
And
And
like,
I feel like our generation, we were like taught like periods don't matter, and
yeah,
and I'm a
it's
big
okay. Even if
believer
you have
like
cramps, you're fine. Just,
yeah,
you'll get through it. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to die. And I'm
totally.
going to get through
No,
it.
I think it was kind of this like positivity message, like intentionally, or like that was the intention behind it, but then it completely denied that. And even as a business owner, once I was in tune with my cycle, I was like, okay, this is the week to like
Okay.
get the things done that I need to get done. And I would literally schedule into my calendar, like, and these are the days where like lighter schedule, more rest time. And so I've been coaching my own clients, and you're so right. I'm in the, I call it the late stage perimenopause. I'm in the chaos stage, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. And until last year, I was still getting fairly regular cycle, so I could still plan that. That's even out the window.
I
I
was just
can't
about
even.
to say, like, because I don't have a cycle, and because it, I'm in this like trying to figure out hormones,
Yes.
like all of that.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, this week is, I don't even know what, and then the
Totally.
next week is totally
Totally.
fine, but I don't know when that fine's coming, right? It's so
Yep.
I'm every day,
Yep.
I'm like you said, like, what can I handle today? And if I feel
Yep.
overwhelmed, I just go for a wellness walk and just
Yep.
decompress and like come back and revisit it. And I
Yep.
give myself permission to not be perfect,
100%.
and
Yep.
to, again, just honor what it is that's happening, because it is chaotic.
Yeah.
It's something that's foreign, especially to somebody who at one point was very organized, very detailed, and now I'm like on some
Totally.
days it's totally fine, but it's
Yep.
it's a wild ride for
Yep.
sure.
Yep. Well, and I love that word permission. I think that's just such a good word all the time, is like permission to rest, like coming back to that rest one, permission
To eat foods that fuel you and
to eat
not feel like weird because you don't
totally,
want to have ultra processed foods that are
totally.
garbage, because you're going to feel. and
Yep.
and that's
There's another permission to say no, thank you, right?
that came earlier on with my kids, because like one of mine couldn't have dairy, one,
Yep.
they both have like gluten things. So
Yep.
um it was like they were young, and they were maybe 3 and 6 at the time, but it
Yeah.
was like, oh wait, oh, she can't have that. It was like
Yep.
kind of one of those things. And it's not that the kids were being rude, it was just pointing, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that doesn't feel good, I'm sure. So we came up
Yeah.
with, and I said to them, you can have it, like,
Right.
you absolutely can, but do you want to have it and then feel sick, or have
Yeah.
diarrhea, or break out in a rash, or get an
Totally.
upper respiratory,
Yeah. Yeah.
sugar, all of that, right?
Yeah.
So I said, when someone says that, you can say, first of all, when they offer it, don't say I can't have it, because
Yeah.
the truth
Yep.
is, you actually just say no, thank you. But then when someone
Yeah.
says you can't have that, then you just say, no, I actually could, but I just choose not to. So it's like trying to
Exactly.
empower the difference of language. But I think with
100%.
adults,
Yep.
it's the same thing. Like, adults need to give themselves permission to have some of these statements. It's
Yep.
okay. And is it
Yep.
okay if every once in a while you do eat something? Sure, it is.
Right.
Great. You
Right.
need to enjoy it and move on.
Right.
There's no reason to sabotage and like
Right.
come down on yourself. We're
Well,
all
and I like thinking about those too, is like it takes like taking that step back and just being like a cause and effect. Like, okay, you can have this. What will be the likely outcome if you do? And is that, are you okay with that? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then it's like, there might be a day where you're like, yes, I'm okay if I am on the toilet for the
Right.
next 24 hours or whatever.
Right.
But most of the time people are going to be like, no, right? And I know, I'm sure you've had it with the clients, like, there is, I would say, especially if there's a food sensitivity, like all the stages of grief that go through the whole process. There's the,
And everyone needs to do what I call have a dip, right? You need
yes,
to like not and then do it and then
yep,
really see how it doesn't work for you anymore,
yep,
right?
yep,
Because like when my daughter went dairy free, I just did it with her because she was
yeah,
3 or 4 and I was like, I'm not going to make her do it alone. And so for a full year, I just didn't have anything.
yep,
And I was like, you love cheese, all this. And then I went, I don't even know what possessed me, but I just went and had something. And I was so sick. And I was like, that's so interesting. I never
yep,
even knew that that was a bother because it didn't bother me because
yep,
my body was just so used to just dealing with it, I guess. I don't know.
yep,
Super
absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah, and actually, like, clients always feel a little guilty when that's happened. I'm like, no, no, no. This was a great time to like
Yeah, you need
try
to
that
have
out.
those
You
tips.
And now you have this validation, right? It's not
Yeah.
just this like theory in the head. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
and it's funny. I mean, I always tell them too. I'm like, humans, we're natural experimenters. So
Mhm.
you might do it 2 or 3 more times to be like,
That's
is
it.
this going to happen again? Is this going to happen again? And then they're usually like, okay, this
And
is
sometimes, in my experience personally, but also in some clients, once you do heal your gut, once you do heal your body, and then you start choosing higher quality of that
totally.
thing,
Yep.
it sometimes doesn't really bother you.
Yep.
And again, in moderation or every couple of months or, like
Exactly.
that daily eating and poor quality does matter. And so
Absolutely.
when you were talking about, like asking yourself, is this in alignment? Does this fuel me? And all of those things. I think what begins to happen is that's the spiral of overwhelm because, oh,
Hmm.
then I can't have that. Then I can't. And what can I have?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's where, like, for me, the ingredient reading comes in
Yeah.
because if you know how to read your ingredients, there is no guessing anymore. You
Right.
just know what
Yep.
is for you and what's not for you.
Yep.
And you're going to find the brands that work in the
Exactly.
whole foods that work, and then you're going to just stick to them. And then
Yep.
luckily, what I tell people is 20 years ago, this stuff did not exist, but there are
I
so many
know.
new companies that are doing better and
I
creating
know.
better for you products that
I
you're in
know.
luck. There's pretty
Yeah.
much a good swap for everything.
I mean, honestly, even 10 years ago, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like there's
no, exactly. But I
right,
mean,
there's so much better
so
stuff
much
out
better.
there. Yep. And
Love it.
and I'm sure you do this with your folks too, is again that mindset piece, right? Like, and I know I went through this whole thing of like I can't in that like
Sure.
I can't have, I can't have. Of course, also switching like right now that's not working well for my body, right? So even just that language. And then like look at all this I love to eat, feels great in my body, right? Like
Mhm.
really focusing. So when I make a list for my client, if we're doing a food list, I'm like, foods to eat. Like it's like this celebratory thing because it's really like this reminder that there's this huge abundance of things, even if there's something going on right now that we need to heal and repair, right? There's still so many different options out there. And absolutely, it can take more time. It can take finding the new things. It can mean checking the labels. But like you said, once you have your things, you're like, this is, and the truth is, I mean, we both know this, like, even no matter what's like most people's eating plan, no matter what they're doing, no matter what kind of style of eating, most people are not eating a ton of diversity of food. You know what I mean? Like
Correct.
most people, no matter what they're doing, are kind of eating the same things over and over again. So it's just like instead of we're eating this over here, we're eating this over here, right? So it's just that like little shift. So, and I think that's what's so key about, I was talking with another colleague. It's like there's obviously like a wealth of information out there and someone can like buy a book or ask ChatGPT or whatever. Like, yes, of course you can do that. And like for a lot of people, do you also have like the guidance and the support and the cheerleading and the practicality. I feel like half of what I do with clients is just like really, really practical stuff, right? And for those who don't need it, great. They can just like follow a plan and do it and they feel great. But I think it's just such a good reminder that as humans, and I know this is why you do your podcast, like as humans, we need to know we're not alone. We need to know that there's other people going through something similar. There's other people who've gone through this and are like on the other side, right? That there is a pathway forward. And then also like when things feel hard or sad or challenging, because that can happen too sometimes, right? That it's like, okay, but let's come back to like, A, how far you've come. I don't know. I feel like I have to like human brains are just like, I love humans so much, but like all we focus on sometimes is like, I'm not as far as I want to be yet, but we forget like, oh my gosh, I've come so far. So even
Yeah.
just reminding clients like, do you remember where you were 3 months ago, 6 months ago? I have a client that, working with like really, really challenging pain, gut, all sorts of issues, so many food sensitivities. I'm like, you couldn't get out of bed most days. You were crying because you were in so much pain. And she's young too. I'm like, think of how far you've come even in just a year. So, all those
Yeah.
good reminders.
Well, and all the things you were saying, that's one of a key pillar in what we
Mhm.
call primary foods is community. Because you
Yeah.
have to be in community, not that you have to, but again, as humans, we thrive in community.
Yep.
And that support is necessary whether you're in a, you know, group setting or you
Hmm.
have two or three good friends and
Hmm.
you have to talk these things out with people. It's very
Yep.
hard to do it alone to make it sustainable and actually make it part of your lifestyle.
Right.
So it's surrounding yourself with other humans that are wanting some of these same outcomes and
Yeah.
transformations for themselves, because then that really helps you to see. Again, I think what's the statistics? It's like you're like the five people you hang out with or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like it's
Yeah.
true. And for a long time, none of this was talked about outwardly anywhere. If you
Right.
went to holistic, you're different, right? Like
Right.
if you did this, you were different. You were not
Right.
mainstream. But I think in the last 5 years, it has just exploded.
Yeah.
People are, chronic illness is
Hmm.
crazy up.
Hmm.
Kids are now chronically sick. And
Yep.
when a mom might put up with stuff because they're just going to, but when it
Push
comes to
through.
your kid,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
like all hands off, right? They
Yep.
become mama bear, but then they realize, oh, like we've got to shift here to help them. And then that helps them shift, but they need support because they
Exactly.
don't know. They think they go to the grocery store and everything's typically fine, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
they don't understand some of the repercussions of some of the chemical laden foods,
Yeah.
and how detrimental they can be on little bodies as well as big bodies.
Yeah. Yep.
So, um,
Absolutely.
so back to the pillar thing, because I think it's important. Sleep, we talked
Hmm.
about community. I
Hmm.
know you have a program and I know it's built off of some pillars, but just in
Yeah.
general, I like to give people concrete, tangible things to walk away with.
Yep.
Aside from sleep and aside from community, and
Hmm.
obviously nourishment is a big deal,
Hmm. Hmm.
which we'll go back to nourishment in a minute. But what are some of the other pillars that you feel help people to heal and to begin to like live a different lifestyle?
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And I call it pillars too. So mine is called whole life nourishment. And it's just this reminder that, like, yes, of course, our food and nutrition needs to be nourishing and, you know, all the things. But if we're not addressing those other things, as you've already addressed, sleep, connection to others, movement, I use the word movement as well, right? Um, Even like all the things we already talked about, having our schedule and our routine and our habits so that there is ease and spaciousness in our day to do the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves. Mindset, which we've already talked about, connection to self, right? Even again, if it's even like for the busy moms, like if it's your 5 minutes of the commute that you're by yourself and you play your favorite song, you listen to your favorite podcast, you put on your audiobook, you take a 5 minute break during the workday, you do a 2 minute legs up the wall pose, right? I always have essential oils next to me, like good quality. Like I can take a minute and smell my essential oils and be like, ah, right? Breath is always with us, right? So breathing is free and our breathing is always with us. So taking 3 minutes at a, or 3 minutes, three breaths at a stoplight. So I find that connection to self, especially for women, especially for moms, is really important. And then the last one is mission and purpose. So that's my 8 pillars, is like our bigger like reason for being here, our big why, how we're meant to serve, how we want to show up. And, that can be a moving target. And I know for me, like the key word is transformation, right? Like I'm here for my own personal transformation and change. I'm here to witness and guide others. I'm here to be a part of like a positive change maker for our planet. And so with those 8 pillars, it's like we can't, to your point about overwhelm, and I was just having this conversation with a client yesterday. It's like taking a moment to assess in a day or taking a moment to assess in a week, like what's my focus for this week, like what's going well. I always start with that, like celebrating what is happening, because again, as humans, that Teflon for the positivity is like, hey, let's give ourselves credit for the things we are doing all the time, right? Like giving ourselves more credit. Like I drank my water today, great, 5 gold stars, right? Or I took a 5-minute walk, awesome. Like really, I'm a big believer in the daily pep talks. Um, and also like we don't need to do all 8 all the time, because then we just feel like we're failing, right? And so I think that's the other key thing, is like, okay, this week I'm going to really focus on my sleep. And what I'm going to really focus on is going into bed by 9 p.m. And what that actually means is I need to start unwinding at 8 p.m., right? So, okay, what do I actually need to do? Start unwinding at 8 p.m. That's what I need to focus on. So it's like taking that, like narrowing it down to that thing that's going to be like, okay, I think this is your 1%, like this one thing is going to be the link that starts to shift the other things. I had another client who's realized like when she takes a shower, her cravings go down. She's much more likely to eat her protein for breakfast. She's much more likely to be in a better mood. So for someone else, like taking a shower might not even be on their radar for health and wellness. But for her, she realized like, take the shower, like that's the focal point, because everything else goes better when she does that. So I love those things of like, what's the one, and I'm a big believer in the 2-minute habit. So especially if it's something new, like something that can be done in 2 minutes. So 2 minutes of deep breathing, oh my gosh, it feels like an eternity. Or I will do like the 2 minutes of the legs up the wall, right? Or 2 minutes to make myself a cup of tea. Like those 2-minute habits, I think are the great place to start, so that it feels doable and then we get that traction going.
Yeah, for sure. I love all that. And really those small 1% shifts or those small habits, they do end up just becoming what you do
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
feel better. And so,
absolutely.
one of the things that you made me think of when you were talking was, you know, when people first just make a decision that they want to join your group or want to
Hmm.
come into coaching in general, it's usually because they feel like they've tried everything, they've, exhausted every avenue, they're not making any progress, they're kind of at that rock bottom for themselves, whatever
Right,
that looks like.
right.
And I love that beginning phase because we talk about how you want to feel. Like,
Yeah,
how do you want to feel when you think you want to get somewhere, right?
yeah.
So if your goal is to run a race, let's just say,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you're going to coaching for racing.
Right,
And it's like, well, I'm going to feel amazing when I get that gold medal or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, but how are you going to feel? You're going to feel more confident, you're going to
right.
feel more energized, all of those things. So you take those feelings and then you teach them that those feelings have to be a daily practice.
Correct.
Don't
Yeah.
wait till you get to the end to feel something, because 9 times out of 10, probably not going to be that feeling you think you're going to get to, and then it's going to be a disappointment. But if
Right.
you truly want to feel that, what is standing in the way of you and that the finish line? We don't need a
Right.
finish line. We need to
Right.
feel that every day is a finish line. Every day
Yep.
is a beginning and an end, right? So we're
That's
going to use
right.
a daily 24-hour kind of period to get those feelings going. And with those
Exactly.
feelings, like you said, like focusing gratitude,
Yeah.
right? If you
Yep.
say what your win is, you're grateful that you drank more water today because it
Yeah.
nourishes you, it hydrates you, and you feel better. You're
Exactly.
grateful that you got that 5-minute walk in, right? And getting that movement in is circulating your blood. And I think when people shift into more of a grateful gratitude mindset, again, the desire to do it again
Yes.
is greater.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind
Well,
of,
I mean, I call it like we've talked about like the blue car theory, right? Like if
yeah,
you're wanting to buy a blue car and suddenly you see blue cars everywhere, there's not more blue cars. It's just that's what you're paying attention to,
no,
right? And so what we pay attention to expands. And so like I'm really encouraging, and I think that's one of the cool things is that I always tell my clients, especially if there's someone like super overwhelmed and super busy. I've kind of banished the word busy, but they might use the word busy. It's like just us working together, your brain is already focusing on these things in a different way. And I love when clients come back and they're like, I was at this party, Michelle, and I heard your voice in my head. And I'm like, oh, well, what did I say? I was like, what is it? Like, like, you're here to have a good time with the friends and you're not here for the food. So go have a good, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, I just
right.
love it that when someone has committed to a health and wellness journey, no matter what it is, right? And we're encouraging them and having that accountability. And this is my group settings and my one on one. It's like when we tell other people we're going to do this, we're more likely to do it. And even if we don't do it, we're thinking about, like, oh, I didn't do this, but I need to get this system in place to make that happen. Or that didn't happen today, but I'm going to set myself up for tomorrow. So it's just, I love that positive support that comes from the community in terms of that, like, accountability, not from a judgmental or shaming space, but from this place of encouragement and building, keep like that 1%, we just keep building and building and building on it, right? And for example, for someone it's like the 5-minute walk, and then they're like, oh, well, I'm out for my 5-minute walk, but I actually have 10 minutes. And then they take the 10-minute walk, right? Or, a lot of my clients, I'm like, just put on, like they make the goal, like put on the shoes and walk out the door. And then whatever happens,
Put the
happens.
shoes by the door, set yourself up by putting your
Exactly.
clothes out like you have. So, the other thing I want to go back to, because you had mentioned it for yourself, and I
Hmm.
agree, from personal experience as well, is it's not easy.
Right.
No change is ever easy.
Right.
No transformation is, because we're just so set in our routine, in our ways, good, bad, or ugly, that we've been doing. And what I want to encourage people is sometimes you do have to have a little tough love.
Yep.
You're making the decision. It's your choice, of course. But
Yep.
if you make that choice and you commit to it,
Yep.
sometimes you have to set yourself up for success, have that talk with yourself, even
Yep.
if you have to say, get your butt up, whatever.
Yeah,
Sometimes you
totally.
got to have a little tough love. And I think
Yep.
the group support of that is very helpful.
Yeah.
I think some people do need more one-on-one, just depending
Yeah.
on where they're coming from and where they're starting. And then
Yep.
hopefully the one-on-one transforms into the community piece,
Yeah.
because again, being in community with people is definitely a good addition
Yeah.
to creating a different lifestyle.
Yeah. And I find for a lot of people, especially when they are at that rock bottom, clarity is so key, So
Mhm.
for a lot of folks, they'll come to me and they'll be like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I'm like, that's probably not true, but I love that you think that. And also, like, here's what I'm envisioning. Here's what I think is going to support your optimal health. Can you do this? Does this seem reasonable? Are you willing? You know what I mean? Like, really checking in. But for a lot of people, that like safety of that container is
Mhm.
really what they're needing. And everybody's different. Some people do moderation really well, and I
Yeah.
love those moderation people.
Yeah.
And other people can't, and they just need to take a break from something because there is no such thing as one cookie for them. One cookie becomes 12 cookies every single time, right? Or whatever it is. And so again, I think holding that clarity for folks. I think of like a baby who wants to be swaddled. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes in the beginning, especially, like a client just needs that, like, to feel swaddled, to feel like they are in a
That's right.
safe container so that they can then like heal and repair. And then we can like open up the blanket and you can run around, right?
That's right.
So
One of the things that I absolutely love, that what the school that I went to taught us this philosophy. And the very first coaching session that I do with people, at the end, it goes to them. Like, what would you like to do for the
yep,
next week? Like,
yep,
after all of the discussion today, what feels good and right for you? And
yep,
they're like, well, you tell me. And I'm like,
yeah,
but if I don't, you're going to
yeah,
tell me, because then if you're invested in that decision, you're gonna make it happen. If I tell you
Absolutely.
to do X, Y, and Z, it's very easy not to do it. But if you
And
tell
I
you,
love that question too, because I'll like give like 10 things, right? I mean, I try not to give too much anymore. One of the mistakes I gave in the beginning, like, oh my God, here's all the things to do. But it's always cool to see like what was the nugget that
that
they
they picked,
took,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. Where
yeah.
did you go to school?
Um, IIN.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I thought it was IIN.
And
Yeah.
then I did their emotional eating
Oh,
component of it.
great. Yeah, yeah,
So that was cool. So
yeah. I've been to
loved
an
it.
IIN. I've been, I know lots of people who did
Yeah,
IIN. So yeah.
I love it. It was
Yeah.
great. And I was a teacher also. I never told you, but I was a teacher in my former life, and then
Yeah.
became a mom who then parented and tried to heal their kids out of
Yeah.
things that, mainstream couldn't do. And that's kind
Yep.
of what brought me to that. So yeah.
Yeah.
But what I would love to see one day is health coaches, nutritionists, people of this caliber being meshed into the medical community. Because
100%.
you go and you get 15 minutes with a practitioner and they only have so much time. They write a script and then you're out the door, but they never asked you about anything about your life. And
Absolutely.
but without knowing anything about your life and figuring out that part, this over here is never going to be the key.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. And I think they're calling it lifestyle medicine now, but
yeah.
put the name on it that you want to put on it, right? But
Yeah.
it's so true, right? And unless we're getting to your point earlier about the medications, like sometimes medication is absolutely necessary while you're also dealing with root causes, while you're also making those lifestyle changes. And and I think also like doctors, I mean, obviously, like the bigger shift that has to happen is more time, right? So that they can actually know and work with their patients, and then more support because even
Support.
like the naturopathic doctors that I work with or the functional medicine doctors, they don't have time to sit there and go like, "How are you going to put away your leftovers?" You
That's
know what I
honestly where I get a lot of my clients from is
mean?
from the
Yeah.
integrative and functional people around here that I have connected with.
Yeah. Yep.
Because again, they only have so much time.
Yep.
And depending on where the client is, they need that more individualized or group support. It's a newer concept for people, but I
Right.
think again, it's coming to light. And I do,
Yeah.
as our medical system shifts over the next decade,
Yeah.
it will be equally focused on
Yep.
lifestyle.
Yep.
And looking at a person as a whole human being rather than siloed parts and pieces.
Exactly.
And I think that would be
Absolutely.
really helpful. Okay, so
Absolutely.
where can people find you if they're interested in
Yeah.
course or your program and or just following you to hear you talk and
Yeah.
give comments and things like that? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so pretty easy. So my website is healthcoachmichelle.com. So Michelle. So healthcoachmichelle.com. And that's all my handles for everything. My
Okay.
Instagram is Health Coach Michelle. My Facebook is Health Coach Michelle. I think my LinkedIn is maybe also Health Coach Michelle, or it's also or it's my full name. I can't remember. But
I'll
yeah,
drop it all
so
in the show notes so you guys don't have to write
yeah.
anything down.
Yeah, and work with clients one-on-one. I do my group program, which is Whole Life Nourishment. Sometimes I have cohorts for that. So like right now I have a cohort that's a perimenopause, menopause. I'm calling it the transition and upgrade cohort. I have a moms of littles because very unique experience of moms of
Yeah.
littles cohort. So sometimes I run cohorts, sometimes I just have it. And then I love doing things like speaking engagements, podcasts, corporate wellness, all that kind of stuff. So
So before we end, I always ask all of my guests for just one or two non-negotiables that you have in your life that helps you
oh,
to, continue to thrive and have the best wellness for yourself.
I would say right now, movement is a non-negotiable. I have realized, so I'm 51 at this stage, it is for my mental health first. Like all the other things, great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to be strong. I want to be healthy. I want to feel good in my body. But it is like a non-negotiable. And like, honestly, there is a day where it's a 5-minute walk. That's okay. Great. Good on me.
I love how you just said that though, the mental health part of it, because people
Oh,
like they only see movement, not everybody, but a lot of people only see movement for the physicality and the look. And
oh yeah.
people can understand how beneficial it is for brain health and for cognition and like all of the things. And just
Absolutely.
neurotransmitters and all the things that are buzzing in your head. It's
Listen, I'm a former soccer player turned step aerobic Southern California girl, right? Like this is an arc, right? Of like all the other things, my digestion, like there's so many great things to move my body, but like number one is like Michelle is a more joyful person when she is moving her body. Like that is a non-negotiable. So
love it.
yeah, I would say movement's a non-negotiable. My movement also often is also my connection and community. So I would say that one is a non-negotiable for me. I have a super loving husband, but I also need time with my girlfriends. So I go hiking with my girlfriends. I do phone walks when I'm walking, and then I dance at a dance studio where I like have so many like friend connections and just like nice friendly people to be around. So for me, connection and community is probably another non-negotiable. And I'm going to say sleep because honestly, if I'm not getting my sleep, I mean, it is, it is definitely at the stage where nothing makes nothing seems to impact me positively or negatively more than the sleep, right? Like that one's the
Well,
non-negotiable.
anybody, again, if you've been able to sort of get away with it for years, during different
Right.
stages of life, but I will say in midlife, perimenopause and post, sleep has to be your best friend.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And a
And at
lot of
least,
people aren't sleeping because their hormones are wrecked. So it's like you got to get that piece dialed in and figured out so that you can sleep,
yep.
because without that sleep, you're wrecked.
Yep. And absolutely for me, as best as I can, it's that early sleep too. Like if I go to bed at midnight, it doesn't matter. I've lost my deep sleep. It's just knowing that, about me. And honestly, the sleep, even on the nights, again, given in the chaos of the perimenopause, I still get the 3 a.m. wake ups. It happens sometimes, but even in that time, just like being in a restful state in the dark, listening to something calming, like just trusting that, like, even just if I'm not always sleeping through the night, even if I'm just like being calm and restful and cocooned and dark, right? So again, that kind of comes with like that good enough is best is just, I think more, this is number 4. And I said, you said 3, but like, just like that daily kindness and compassion to myself. I think
Love it.
I'm going to put that one in as a bonus.
Yeah, I love that because that's necessary in order to thrive for sure. Well, thank you so much. I know that today people are walking away with generalized information, but enough that they can apply some of these things and understand in each pillar there are different things to work on. So for this week, y'all just pick something that really sounds like it's exciting and interesting to you and just try it on. Do that experimentation we talk about. See how you feel after a couple of days of doing it. Tweak it. We're the person doing the experiment on ourselves, so it's okay to tweak things. And that is what science is, right? It's just about tweaking and figuring out what works for us. So I know that you guys have something to try on this week for sure. Remember, let us know. You can reach out on Instagram. You can also put a comment below the podcast. And if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe, leave a review, and especially leave a review on this particular episode so that we can hear, again, what you're taking away. Have a beautiful week, and we will talk to you soon. And thanks so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Thanks, Robin.